My ex-husband had Alzheimer's and forgot everyone except me. My ex-husband Frank could only remember our marriage that ended 15 years ago. The facility called me first when he started asking for his wife, Linda. That's me, except I haven't been his wife since our son graduated from middle school. I'm married to Robert now, have been for 8 years. Frank remarried too, a woman named Diane, who lasted 4 years before leaving him. Then he stayed single, focused on his work at the engineering firm, visiting our son Eddie on weekends. The disease came fast. First, he couldn't find his car in the parking lots. Then he forgot his coworkers' names. By the time Eddie noticed something was really wrong, Frank was forgetting entire decades. The doctor said early onset Alzheimer's, aggressive type, maybe 2 years before he'd need full-time care. But Frank fooled them. His mind just picked one time period and stuck there, our marriage from 1995 to 2003. In his mind, Eddie was still 12. I still lived in our old house on Maple Street. And we still had that tabby cat named Whiskers who died 10 years ago. The facility said they'd never seen anything like it, a patient whose memories froze instead of disappearing completely. I went to see him because Eddie begged me to. Robert drove me there, waited in the parking lot while I went inside. Frank lit up when he saw me, asked why I hadn't visited yesterday, said Eddie's science fair was coming up and we needed to help him with his volcano project. He remembered everything from those years perfectly. Our anniversary dates, the restaurant where we'd get Chinese food on Fridays, the way I'd leave him notes in his lunch bag. He just couldn't remember anything that happened after. Robert said I didn't have to keep going, but I went twice a week. Frank would tell me about his day at work, except the work was from 20 years ago. Projects long completed, co-workers long retired. He'd ask about my mother who'd been gone for a decade. He'd remind me to tape that show we used to watch together on Thursday nights. Then Robert started coming inside with me. Frank would introduce himself every time, shake Robert's hand, say any friend of Linda's was welcome. Robert would sit there while Frank told me he loved me. While Frank held my hand and talked about our vacation plans for places we'd already been when we were young, Robert never flinched, never looked uncomfortable. When Frank would get agitated because he couldn't find his work files or couldn't remember where he'd parked, Robert would calm him down, tell him everything was in the garage, that he'd checked on it himself. Frank trusted him immediately. The facility moved Frank to a smaller room when his money ran out. Eddie couldn't afford the nice place anymore on his teacher's salary. Robert and I paid for him to stay there. Robert said it was the right thing, that Frank was family, even if the legal papers said otherwise. We decorated Frank's room with photos from our marriage, nothing later that would confuse him. Robert helped hang them, listened to Frank tell stories about each one like Robert had never heard them before, even though Frank told the same stories every visit. One day Frank grabbed Robert's arm, asked him to take care of me, said he felt strange lately, tired all the time, and worried he was getting sick, asked Robert to make sure I'd be okay if anything happened to him. Robert promised he would, that Linda would always be safe and loved. Frank relaxed then, trusted this stranger who'd been helping care for him for 6 months. Last month, Frank stopped getting out of bed, still knew me, still talked about our life together, but his body was giving up. Robert would help him eat, adjust his pillows, and clean his face when he couldn't manage it anymore. Frank would thank him, call him a good neighbor, and say we should have him over for dinner when he felt better. Eddie could barely visit, couldn't stand seeing his father like this. But Robert was there every day after work, reading Frank the sports page, telling him fake scores for teams that didn't exist anymore. Frank died on a Tuesday morning, holding my hand, Robert standing beside us. His last words were asking me to pick Eddie up from school, not to let him walk home in the rain. Robert handled everything after, the arrangements, the calls, the paperwork. At the service, people kept asking who Robert was, why he was crying harder than some of Frank's actual relatives. I didn't know how to explain that Robert had spent 8 months loving a man who couldn't remember him, caring for someone who'd married his wife in another lifetime. Robert gave a speech about Frank being a devoted father and husband. He meant it. He'd seen it every single day, frozen in time but absolutely real. Love doesn't always make sense.